Well, we are coming off the bye week, which means we have more Jag Bros and more Jaguars football. I know that our team is rested and ready to go, but how about you guys? Are you rested and ready for this Sunday?
This is what it's all about. Jaguars and 49ers in November playing meaningful football. The eyes of the NFL nation will be watching this game.
I am very ready. I have been missing Jags football. It was a depressing weekend without them and not being able to watch them, but it was also nice to have a little break. But I am ready to jump right back in it to a great game against the 49ers.
Yeah, big game this Sunday in Everbank Field. Noon p.m. kickoff Central Time, 1 p.m. kickoff. Hope if you are in the area, you're there and cheering on our Jags. Hope everyone is watching and cheering on the Jaguars against the 49ers. And it is going to be great. Coming off the bye, we should have some of our key guys back. It was awesome to see Trevor Lawrence, a.k.a. Peyton Manning 2.0 on Monday Night Football, the Manning cast. But in today's episode, we are going to cover the power rankings, where you rank the Jaguars among the NFL elite. We're going to talk a little bit about our jerseys and logos, and then we're going to break down the game. So our offense against the 49ers defense, our defense against their offense. We're going to talk about keys to victory for the Jaguars, and then our score predictions from the Jag Bros. That's Jack, and then my two brothers, JT and Joey, giving those predictions. And JT, you're going to kick us off with some power rankings.
Yeah, so this is a very interesting game. The Jaguars are coming in hot off of 5 straight victories, and the 49ers are coming in very cold after 3 straight losses, including a couple on the road. Both teams had a bye. But what's interesting is you see Jacksonville right now is a 3-point home underdog. And so if you're looking at this and interpreting this, that means Vegas actually has Jacksonville power ranked around 10th. So it's behind Kansas City, Miami, Baltimore, Buffalo, and Cincinnati in the AFC, and then behind the 49ers, the Lions, the Eagles, and the Cowboys in the NFC. So right around 10th. And so what makes this interesting is if you think the Jaguars should be a top 5 team, you probably are going to lean Jacksonville in this game. And if you think that Jacksonville is more of the best of the rest of the other teams, you're probably going to have them right around the 10th or 11th, which is why they are right now a 3-point underdog. And one other stat to point out here before we open up the discussion is Jacksonville is 11-6 outright when they are an underdog. So that means not only are they covering, but they're actually winning those games that they're listed as an underdog more often than losing them. And that's all been since Doug Peterson took over last season. So it's telling me that the national media, Vegas, the rest of the country really struggles to identify how good is this Jacksonville team. And so, boys, how good is this Jacksonville team?
I'll tell you how good this Jacksonville team. They're easily a top 5 team. I can't believe what people say having them around like 10 or even 11. That's a joke. They're 6-2. They're winning by double digits in most games. I understand that their offense hasn't been where a lot of people assumed it would be at, but their defense is playing incredibly well. It's one of the top defenses in the NFL. They don't have to score that many points when your defense takes the ball away and keeps people off the field and gets them out in third down. There's no respect for the Jaguars. You heard it last night on one of the national sports people saying that the Jaguars were exploring going to London. People keep saying we're a London team. The disrespect the Jaguars are getting, even though we are 6-2, is outrageous.
You're right, Joey. But here's my opinion on it. I actually love the disrespect. I love the Jaguars being the underdog team, the team that everyone counts out. And what do? We just beat everybody. We just keep winning. We have the longest win streak in the league. And yeah, JT, a lot of people are split on where do you rank the Jaguars right now. So we ran a update on our X account, our Twitter account, just where some of the big names have the Jaguars in terms of power rankings. And you have a few, as in CBS, NBC Sports have the Jaguars at 3rd. And then some have, such as The Ringer has us at 10th, at The Athletic has us at 8. I think we're right around that 4th or 5th spot with the Eagles ahead of us, the Chiefs, the Ravens coming off a massive blowout against the Seahawks. I have them ahead of us, but putting the Bills ahead of us is a joke. And I saw this one or two times. We have a better record. We've beaten them. Our offense looks better. Our defense looks better. So yeah, this team is disrespected, but all we have to do is just keep piling up the wins.
And I want to say something real quick to all the national analysts and news people who say they don't watch the Jaguars or they don't care for the Jaguars. Have you watched the other NFL teams? Because I did last week, and there's some bad teams. The Jaguars are a fun team to watch. Great on defense. Offense has a lot of weapons, and they play well. And it's a fun time to watch them. It is time to get on the Jaguars bandwagon. Start watching the Jaguars. Are you kidding me? They're easily better than watching the Jets. They're better than watching the Bears, the Panthers, the Cardinals. All these teams stink watching. How about you go watch a real team like the Jacksonville Jaguars?
I'll save my commentary on where I have them ranked for the end when we do some score predictions. But I will say, if you are anti-Jacksonville, you're saying, well, Jacksonville's really beat nobody so far except for Buffalo in each successive week.
Every team they beat is over 500.
I don't disagree with you, Joey, but that they would say that the best one we have is Buffalo in each succeeding week. That looks worse. But then if you're against the 49ers, you look at their schedule and you say, okay, so you beat the Giants, yuck, the Cardinals, yuck, the Rams, a Cowboys team who's been the definition of Jekyll and Hyde. And then every time you've stepped up in class this year, you've lost. And so it's going to be a really fun one. And it's going to be really fun digging into some of the matchups on both sides of the ball.
Guess what? The Jags beat the Steelers. If the Steelers had won, they would be 6-2. The Jags have beaten the Colts twice. If the Colts had won, they would have 6 wins. They beat the Saints, who, if they would have won, would be 6-3. Like, these aren't terrible teams. I understand they're not the Eagles or they're not the Chiefs, but they're still really good playoff teams. Well, I don't understand the disrespect, not only to the Jaguars, but to these other teams. You know, all of a sudden, the Steelers aren't very good when the Jags beat them, but all of a sudden when the Steelers win, oh, they're a really good team. They're going to make the playoffs. How about you stick to reporting real stuff? The Jags are good. They're good. Get over it.
Here's my prediction. If the Jacksonville Jaguars do win this game, well, guess where the media is going to be focused on? It's not going to be on, is Jacksonville for real and is Jacksonville a true top 5 team? It's going to be, well, is the 49ers terrible? They've lost 4 in a row. And should we be pushing the panic button on them at this point? So it's going to be fun. And Joey, talk to us about the uniforms so then we can start diving into this matchup.
Yes. So there was a lot of talk about the Jaguars possibly wearing throwback uniforms for this game. During one of the home games, they had the logos of the 49ers and the throwback Jaguars, and everyone was so excited. Unfortunately, it's come out that the Jaguars were only promoting the legends. They're going to bring out a lot of old Jaguars to honor them at this game. And so they won't be wearing throwback uniforms, unfortunately. I don't really know why the Jaguars are afraid to bring back old uniforms. Fans are crying for them. We want them. They look incredible. Other teams are doing it. You see Tennessee Titans, you see the Eagles did it with their old uniforms. The Buccaneers do it all the time. Like, it's a fun way to get the crowd involved. And I don't know why the Jaguars haven't really brought out some throwback uniforms.
Yeah, I love our throwback uniforms, our throwback logo. And I think there's still a chance. I was hopeful that it would happen this Sunday in a big matchup, but we still have some big home games the second half of the season. So don't count it out. Let's keep blowing it up on social media. Let's keep asking the Jaguars, hey, we want at least one game where we get to see those throwback uniforms this season.
Yeah, and you know what? Maybe we need the throwback uniforms because right now the Jaguars are 2-4 all time against San Francisco. Our last win was in 2005, and then 1999 was the previous one. We've actually lost 4 in a row right now to the 49ers, which sets us up, and we'll start to dive into the offensive side of the ball and matching up against their defense. So the 49ers defense has had some changes year over year. D'Amico Ryans was the fantastic defensive coordinator for several years in San Francisco before he's now gone on to take on head coaching role at the Houston Texans, which we've struggled with, to say the least, this year. And so Steve Wilkes is now their defensive coordinator. He's had a long career on the defensive side of the ball, but never one that's been that successful. The previous year, he was the defensive passing game coordinator for Carolina. He spent some time as the Browns defensive coordinator. He's been the Cardinals coach back in 2018, their head coach when they went 3-13. So if you read a lot of what the 49ers fans are saying right now, there's been some frustration and disappointment on the defensive side of the ball. But despite this, they are one of the top 5 run defenses. They're top 5 in missed tackles, top 5 in scoring defense, one of the lowest blitz rates in the league. They're very good in most defensive categories. But when you zoom in a little bit more, they're average at pass defense and actually bottom third on third downs and red zone defense. So there is some opportunities to take advantage of them through the air. So Jack, what do you think? Where's the opportunities that you see our offense having on the game on Sunday?
I think this is a super interesting matchup on a lot of levels because there's a lot of similarities to these two teams. So JT, you pointed out this is a very good run defense. So they're currently 4th in yards, 5th in touchdowns, only giving up 4. And then another key metric that they're very good at is interceptions. So they're an opportunistic defense. And so they're 2nd in the league, actually tied with us with 11 picks. But their pass defense has had some holes. There's some opportunities there. And so what I think is a big opportunity for us on Sunday is seeing some early passes to open up the run game. I think we need to have a balanced attack, even though they're good against the run. I think if we can throw the ball to get the 49ers on their feet, on their heels, then we're going to have some running opportunities because a couple of weeks ago, the Browns ran all over them with over 160 yards. And so I don't know that that's necessarily going to be us, but I like us to throw it early, get ETN involved in the passing game to open up the run game as well.
This defense is going to be also different now that they've brought in Chase Young from the Washington Commanders on the deadline. Our offensive line will have some work cut out for them. Cam Robinson will be going up most likely against Chase Young. And then rookie Anton Harrison is going to be going up against Nick Bosa. So we watched them do really well against the Pittsburgh Steelers, going up against Highsmith and TJ Watt, and they did a very good job. And I want to give a shout out again to Cam Robinson, who really shut down Highsmith, because you watched Highsmith last week do work against the other offensive line that he played. So Cam Robinson really played well against him. So he's going to have his work cut out again. So I think our best option is going to have to be quick passes, because I don't think Trevor Lawrence will have that much time. It'll be great having Walker Little back and having Ezra Cleveland seems to going to be backing him up. He may not be quite ready to enter the starting lineup. Plus Walker Little's kind of earned that spot. So they're wanting to have him as the starter, and we'll see how he plays at guard. But Ezra Cleveland will be right behind him, backing him up. So I don't think we'll have that much time to pass the ball going deep, but quick passes and also opening up the run, because they do blitz so much, should open up some holes for ETN to squeeze through and maybe break some big yardages.
That's a good call out, Joey, for our offensive line. I'm a little nervous about this game because the 49ers are going to come in hungry. You pointed this out earlier, JT. They've lost 3 in a row. Fans are getting upset on both sides of the ball. And Nick Bosa, their superstar edge rush, has really been quiet this year. He's only had 3.5 sacks. And when you look at his last 2 years of 15.5, 18.5 sacks, he's going to come out hungry, and you know he's going to want to have a big impact early in this game. So I look for Anton Harrison is going to be a key figure in our offensive line, because he's probably going to line up a lot against him. And I think Press Taylor really needs to bring in a second blocker, whether it's another tight end, whether it's a running back, to make sure that we don't let Nick Bosa go off early in this game.
You're right, Jack. I think this is going to be a key game for either Luke Farrell or Brenton Strange. They're going to have to run some two tight end sets. And I think it'll be great to have them hit and shove Nick Bosa right off the line. And then as he rushes towards Trevor Lawrence, you sweep him out real quick for a turnaround screen and you hit them for a big play. I think that would work great against the 49ers. You just need that extra help going up against Nick Bosa. But you know who's playing better than Nick Bosa this year? Josh Allen. He needs to have a big game and show that Nick Bosa doesn't deserve all the money he got. Josh Allen deserves all the money that Nick Bosa is getting.
Yeah, Josh Allen's having quite a season, and we'll talk about the defense a little bit more here in a second. But just to finish our thoughts here on the offense, one thing that's interesting, though, is if you actually look at the top wide receiver targets, they've all gone for over 100 yards over the last 3 games. So Amari Cooper, Addison with Jefferson out, and then Jamar Chase all went for over 100 yards and was their leading receivers during that time. So I'm going to suspect this is going to be a Calvin Ridley game. I would imagine they're going to try to get him involved in the passing attack pretty early. They've also statistically been very good against the tight end, and they played against some very good tight ends this year. However, Hawkinson 2 games ago went for almost 100 yards as well. So, and Jacksonville tends to use their tight end a little bit differently than what some teams do. We're not throwing a lot of passes over the middle. In fact, more often than not with Ingram, we're doing a lot of slip screens. We're doing outs for the tight end and sometimes using him in a little bit more creative ways. And so just like we saw the Steelers be a top 3 team defending tight ends and Ingram having a nice game, I don't suspect that that Ingram will have a bad game against this 49ers defense. And if you look at the blueprint of the team that we're probably most similar to on the schedule they played, it was against the Bengals 2 weeks ago, where the Bengals ended up putting up 31 points. So I think there is absolutely a path for Jacksonville's offense to have success, despite the viewpoint that the 49ers are very, very talented on defense and this top 5 level. I certainly see a scenario where Jacksonville could be scoring in the mid-20s, if not higher, even against a very good defense.
We also need to talk about Zay Jones. It seems like he's still not going to be ready for this game. Hearing Doug Peterson saying that they're still evaluating him. They're not 100%, and they haven't even ruled out IR yet, which means that his injury seems to be way worse than we all kind of expected. It worries me that they won't tell us what's going on with his knee, but obviously it's something pretty bad that he's not able to get back to us. So I think it's time the Jags get Elijah Cooks more involved. He is such a different wide receiver than the other wide receivers with Calvin Ridley and Christian Kirk. They're both kind of small, quick guys. Elijah Cooks is like 6'3", 6'4", has a massive wingspan, and can really stretch the team, which we're missing. That's what we miss from Zay Jones. We've been kind of filling his position with Agnew and Tim Jones, which I like Tim Jones, but we mostly bring him in just to block. So I think it's time to actually give one of these wide receivers a chance to play in Zay Jones' spot, because it doesn't seem like he's coming back really anytime soon. So I hope during this break that they were able to scheme something up where we can actually get a third wide receiver, not Agnew, a real wide receiver who can run routes, possibly stretch the ball deep, and open things up for Calvin Ridley and Kirk, because we need that third wide receiver, because a lot of people are rotating to Calvin Ridley, double covering him because they're not feeling threatened by Agnew or Tim Jones. So I think it's time we get either Jacob Harris, Elijah Cooks, someone involved in that third wide receiver spot.
Speaking of time, especially if Zay Jones is not on the field, which he's still day to day, and there is a real possibility he will not play on Sunday, because he's been such an important piece in the red zone. And we've seen the Jaguars struggle. It is time to unlock Evan Ingram in the red zone. I've been calling for it. I've been pounding the table. Press Taylor, I know you're listening right now. Press, it is time to unlock one of the best tight ends in the game and get him a touchdown. He's still at 0 touchdowns. I think the Jags need to feed Ingram here. He needs to see several red zone targets in this game.
Yeah, and for those that listened a couple weeks ago, Jack guaranteed not 1, but maybe 2 touchdowns for Evan Ingram. So keep our eyes on what he does on Sunday.
Yeah, it's like the LeBron when he went to Miami. Not 1, not 2, not 3. Hopefully at least 1, but 2 would be amazing. Well, with that, let's flip fields and let's talk about our defense going up against the 49ers offense. Again, I think there's a lot of similarities to the way that both these teams run. So the 49ers have a lot of weapons on offense, a lot of talented guys around Brock Purdy. And hey, no hate, I have him on Dynasty League. But Brock Purdy is Mr. Game Manager. His job is just to feed these weapons. And so when you're looking at the weapons, it's got to start number 1 at Christian McCaffrey. And this is going to be a fun game because you're going to see McCaffrey, who in many statistics is number 1, number 2, go up against ETN, who's also number 1, 2, 3. And so these are the 2 best running backs statistically going into this game. And then you're also going to see for the 49ers, Brandon Ayuk. You're going to see Kittle, Mr. Boom or Bust. And you're going to see Deebo Samuel looks like be back in this game. He's been battling injuries this season. So, guys, what are you looking at? What worries you about the 49ers offense?
The 49ers offense is a weird one. It's one that you're like, oh, man, there's nothing dynamic. It's not that fun. It's not that interesting. But then you look up and they've scored 30 points in, I think, 7 straight games earlier this season. In fact, right now they average 27 points per game, which is top 4. They're top 4 on third down offense. They're top 5 in red zone offense. They're top 3 in points per drive. They are also their passing offense is actually better statistically than the Jaguars. More yards, more touchdowns, higher QB rating, less sacks. And their run offense is better than the Jaguars. More yards, more touchdowns, more yards per attempt, less fumbles. So on paper, there's a potential edge to the 49ers offense. And if you look at the 3-game losing streak, it's also coincided with the fact that they've been missing Deebo Samuel being out for those games, as well as a couple of members of their left side of their offensive line, where I think all of those guys are expected to be back, especially Deebo Samuel, for this game against Jacksonville. So it's going to be very interesting.
I'll tell you how you can beat the 49ers offense. They have one thing that they're good at, and that's yards after catch. Their dynamic players are good when you throw a little screen to them and Deebo Samuels can scoot around people, break tackles, and break it big. Or Christian McCaffrey catches it out of the backfield, makes a bunch of people miss, and makes it big. It's yards after catch is that entire offense. Kittle does it, and you just see that our defense actually lines up perfectly for this because we are one of the best defense of stopping people yards after catch. We tackle, we swarm, and we really don't miss tackles this year. And that is going to be the biggest important part for our defense is, yeah, we'll let you dink it and dunk it, but we're going to tackle you right away. You're not going to get away. Deebo, you can catch it 3 yards, but you're not going to break it for 20 or 30 because we're going to tackle you right where you catch it. Christian McCaffrey, we're going to blow you up. It's just not going to happen for them. We're going to shut them down and get rid of those yards after catch. Make Brock Purdy be the guy that no one thinks that he is, someone who can throw the game and win it by throwing it deep because he doesn't have the arm strength. I think that his confidence is completely rattled after these 3 losses because he's throwing interceptions. He's not making some of the right decisions that he used to be making. Make him be the offense, not the yards after catch from Deebo Samuel, from Christian McCaffrey, from George Kittle. Make Brock Purdy do it, and we've seen it in these last 3 games. He just can't. That's how you win against this 49ers offense.
And here's the 2 matchups that I'm watching and that for the Jaguars defense needs to have locked down. Number 1 is specifically McCaffrey in the passing game. So he is, to me, the best all-time running back receiver, maybe to ever play in the NFL, certainly to be playing right now. And we've seen some games where I'm thinking about the Saints game where Kamara felt like he had 10, 11, 12 receptions in that game. Sure, he didn't have a ton of yardage, but McCaffrey is not Kamara. Kamara is never going to break a big play. McCaffrey can break some big plays. So if McCaffrey gets 8, 9, 10 catches, then that could be a big trouble sign for our defense. The other matchup is Ayuk is quietly having a very nice season, 620 yards, 2 touchdowns, and we've struggled some against teams' number 1 wide receivers. And so it'll be interesting to see, especially with Campbell back, with Cisco back. Can we lock down? Can we keep these weapons contained in this game?
I'm so glad you brought up the Kamara thing because I completely agree. I think there's a great analogy there, but the number 1 player on Jaguars defense that all fans need to be watching is Devin Lloyd. We picked him in the first round last year to potentially be the guy that's able to run with tight ends and to take away receptions from the running back. And so he is going to be the one that we are going to have to make sure is mirroring McCaffrey wherever he goes. Now, he was coming back from an injury and he dropped a couple of interceptions in the Saints game. And I think part of the play design on defense against that was to make sure that Olave and Shakir and some of those other guys, Shalib, are not taking the top off of your team. So we were fine with those underneath passes. I think we're going to completely change our defensive scheme to try to take away McCaffrey's run. In fact, most of the games that the 49ers have played, McCaffrey as a true running back has been average, only averaging about 50 yards rushing, but he's getting sometimes 70 or 100 yards receiving. And so he is going to be the critical person on defense to determine whether we win or lose.
You're right, JT, about Devin Lloyd being super important for this game. Also, Foye Oluokun, I think it's going to be paramount for these linebackers to be able to cover this game. And you know what? I ragged on them at the beginning of the season because last year they weren't very great at covering. Tight ends really blew us up last year. But this year, they are doing an incredible job. You can tell they obviously worked at coverage during this offseason, and they have quietly had an incredible season with multiple pass defenses. Lloyd would have at least 2, maybe even 3 picks if he didn't have that cast on his hand. He kept hitting his hands and he just couldn't quite squeeze it with the cast. Hopefully he'll be off for this game and he'll be ready to make some interceptions because they are having a great season as pass defense linebackers. And I can't wait to see this matchup because I really think our defense matches up against this 49ers offense very well. With Campbell back, with Cisco back, it's going to be a great game.
Yeah, hopefully Lloyd works some on his pass catching this bye week because since he's come back from that injury, he has been fantastic in coverage. I think it's even more. I think he's dropped 4 or 5 interceptions, and that's something I want to see from this defense because typically Brock Purdy is Mr. Game Manager. It's probably not the best nickname, but maybe just above a game manager. He's a guy that's 68% completion, just over 2,000 yards passing, 12 touchdowns and only 5 picks. He doesn't get sacked a lot, typically doesn't make a lot of mistakes. But JT, I know you've called this out before in past episodes. We said the same thing about Gardner Minshew. And what do? We get a career night where he throws his most interceptions against our defense. And so I think you'll see some different packages, some different blitzes to make Brock Purdy make mistakes in this game.
I was going to save this for my keys to the game, Jack, but there's something also interesting from a turnover perspective. In their last 3 losses, they've turned over the ball 7 times. In their previous 5 wins, they only turned over the ball twice. So they're averaging almost more than 2 turnovers a game when they've been losing. And so that could be a stat that favors Jacksonville. And then from a special teams and coaching perspective, special teams, their kickers missed 3 of their last 4 kicks in the last few games too. So he's coming in a little streaky. And so I certainly would give the edge to Jacksonville from a kicking perspective. And with Agnew, I think you pretty much almost always give him the edge in the return game. So I think we might need to see at some point a big special teams play, whether that's a miss from the 49ers or a situation where Agnew flips the field or a turnover from them on a kickoff. So like one of those type of things could be a determining factor as well. And then coaching, Doug Peterson is almost always the favorite coach against most of the teams we played. You could say he's a slight downgrade to Kyle Shanahan, or at least a push. So we're certainly going to be playing against a coach of equal caliber to Doug on the other sidelines with Kyle Shanahan.
You want to talk about push? I think these 49ers are going to be desperate coming into this game. Their playoff contention kind of depends on this game. If you lose 4 in a row, it gets really hard to claw your way back into this season. So they are going to be pushing this game. They're going to be wanting to make big plays. They're going to be really wanting that. And you know what we've seen when we were pushing at the beginning of the season? That's where you make mistakes. And that's what this defense is going to have to do against their offense, is when they're pushing, when they're trying to get that extra yardage, or they're really trying real hard to make a big play, go in there and go get those turnovers that we know that you can. You already have 16 on the season. It's tied for the most in the league. Keep that going, and you will win this game by them pushing and us making them pay for being careless. So we're going to also now transfer into the keys of the game, because we want to know, how are the Jaguars going to win against the 49ers and keep this winning streak alive? I know a lot of people were ready for this break, but I did not like this bye week because we're on a 5-game winning streak. I want to keep seeing the win streak. So I really hope the players are locked in and ready to go. What are your keys to victory, Jack and JT?
Yeah, so both teams are coming off the bye, which makes it interesting, because coming off a bye, sometimes you can come in really hot because you are healthy again and you have some guys back on injury, which is truly both teams, or you can come out a little rusty because you haven't played game time football in now 14 days for both teams. And so I think overall the key is going to be what the Jaguars have done well on this 5-game win streak, which is start fast. In those 5-game win streak for the Jaguars, we've only been trailing for a total of a handful of minutes in the Colts game. So every other point in those 5 games, we were either tied or winning. And so I think that's important. But offensively, I'm going to keep saying it, repeat again and again and again, unlock Ingram in the red zone. I think he needs 3 red zone targets. I would love to see 2 of those be touchdown catches, but I think he needs at least 3 targets and at least 1 touchdown for Ingram. And then defensively, we were just talking about a lot in that breakdown. I think it's causing turnovers. That's what the 49ers have been struggling with in this 3-game losing streak for them. So I think we need at least 2 turnovers. And if I'm calling out a player, is who you guys are calling out, is Devin Lloyd. Do those pass catching and get 1 interception for us in this game.
I love it. I'm going to echo your exact thing from a defensive stat. I think it's 2 turnovers, and it's not something that's unrealistic. They've been averaging more than 2 turnovers in their losses, and the Jaguars average 2 turnovers every game. So what we're saying is almost a quote unquote average performance from the Jaguars defense, which has played very well this year. On the offensive side of the ball, however, I'm going to go with an interesting stat. So I was getting frustrated how we've seen our offensive play. And so I looked back and I saw every single game, how many times were we on the opponent's side of the field and we end up with 0 points? Because it felt like it happened all too often, and it has. It's happened almost 24 times this year.
That's crazy.
After I've stripped out the knee downs 24 times this year. And so in games like the Texans and the Chiefs and the Steelers, we had 4 or 5 times we were on their side of the field and we ended up with 0 points. Our best performance was the second game against the Colts, when we actually had 0 except for the knee downs, and we actually scored 37 points. And so my key to the game offensively is I'm going to allow us only one time can we go into their into their side of the field and come away with 0 points. Because if we could do that, I think we'll be playing closer to the ceiling of the Jacksonville's offense. And we mentioned it earlier, the 49ers are a bottom 3rd team in the red zone and on 3rd downs, places where Jacksonville has struggled this year offensively. And so this should be a matchup that fancies your scoring ability a little bit here. So I really do not want us to see us down in the 35 and coming away with a punt or a turnover on downs or another turnover. And so that's my key to the game. Only one time can we be on their side of the field and come away with 0 points.
It's a great call out, JT.
My keys for the game and victory are, for the defense, it's going to be tackling, getting rid of those yards after the catch that the 49ers thrive on. You cut them down to just being able to catch the ball and getting tackled right where they are. I promise you, you will win, because they thrive off that yak, and we are one of the best defenses at taking that away. So I want to see the Jaguars swarming and not missing tackles. And then I also need at least 2 takeaways, either interceptions, forced fumbles, find a way to get the ball away from the 49ers, make them make mistakes. As I said, they're going to be pushing to win this game. So you go ahead and you go get that ball, Jaguars defense, because that's what you're good at, and that's what I know that you can do. You will win the game on 2 turnovers and having very few yards after the catch. And on the offensive side, I'm just going to say, be winning. Start fast. Do you know Kyle Shanahan's record going into the fourth quarter behind 3 points or more? He's 1-29. They lose 29 games when they are behind in the fourth quarter by more than 3 points. They've only won 1 game. And then you also want to know what? When they're losing by more than 8 points, he's 0-37. They've never won. So if you are winning in the fourth quarter, you're winning this game. Kyle Shanahan is not clutch. He can't coach a clutch team. He can't win when he's losing in the fourth quarter. They can keep a victory, but they can't go and claw their way back into it. So just be winning by the fourth quarter. I think you got this game in the bag, Jaguars. So whatever you need to do on offense to make sure that you're winning by fourth quarter, you got it in the bag. Those are my keys to victory.
Woo! Yeah, Joey, I love it. Those are the stats I'm talking about. Let's go right into the score predictions. Joey, lead us off.
I am going to say we are winning this game. It is going to be 24-17. The 49ers have scored 17 points in their last 3 games. I think we hold them to 17 again because they run into a brick wall of the Jaguars defense. And Trevor Lawrence finally is going to have a healthy offensive line. They're going to hold back that intense defensive line of the 49ers. And Trevor Lawrence is going to have time. He's going to find Calvin Ridley. He's going to find Evan Ingram in the end zone. We are going to score 3 touchdowns, 1 field goal, 24-17 Jags victory. 6 wins in a row. That's the Jaguars. That will be the story for the media to choke on, because the Jaguars are the best team in the NFL, and they will prove it this Sunday.
We're going all the way, baby.
You heard it here first. Joey predicts yet another Jaguars victory. And I've gone back and forth. So I've had a lot of time, of course, with a bye week to think about this matchup. And unfortunately, I think we're going to see a lot of bad news early in the game. I think the 49ers are going to come out hot. They're going to come out aggressive. I think it's going to be a higher scoring game than a lot of people are going to predict. I actually think, unfortunately, according to all your stats, Joey, I wish and I hope that we're going into the fourth quarter with the lead. But I don't think we are. I think the 49ers will actually take the lead into the fourth quarter. But I think we see something we haven't really seen all season because we haven't needed it necessarily. But I think we see clutch Trevor. I think we see a game-winning drive from Trevor. I think we're down 27-21 with less than 2 minutes to go. Trevor takes us down the field. The 49ers defense is gassed. They struggle against the big plays. Trevor comes up clutch. I think we take a 1-point victory. Jaguars 28, 49ers 27.
You think he pulls a CJ Stroud with the winning drive, I see.
The best quarterback in the AFC, still the king, Trevor Lawrence.
Oh, I love it so much. Oh, man, you guys are making me so hyped. I actually wrote down my score before we started talking. And, man, I'm torn because here's the reality. They've lost 3 in a row, the 49ers. And from a NFL script perspective, if they had not lost these 3 in a row, I think it's the Jags win. But because they've lost 3 in a row, you know they're going to be hungry. But we'll go back to what I said at the top of the show. If you think Jacksonville is a top 5 team, then you're picking Jacksonville to win this game. If you think Jacksonville is the best of the rest, then it's an easy 49ers victory. Well, I said last episode that the Jaguars are the number 1 team in the AFC. So, of course, I'm picking a Jaguars victory. And, Jack, you stole the script out right from under me. My score I wrote down was also 28-27, with us deciding to go for 2 and the win with Dougie P's big balls laying it out there for the whole media to see. I think the Jaguars win 28-27 as well. I think it's high scoring. I think Debo and them have some success early, but I do think it's a situation where the Jaguars come from behind and head to 7-2, putting them right there at the top of the AFC for all to see.
It is time for the Jaguars to have a great script, and I am ready for it. 7-2, 6 wins in a row. Let's go.
I mean, you heard Deontay Johnson. He said the refs want the Jags to win. So you already know the script is written for the Jaguars. And I don't know if you were watching, but the other day, there were analysts already making excuses for why the 49ers might lose to the Jaguars. They're like, oh, their bodies aren't going to be ready. It's going to be 10 a.m. their time, like you can't play football at 10 a.m. Oh, the time difference. They're going to be jet lagged, just like the Buffalo Bills. Please keep making up these excuses because the Jaguars don't care. We will win, and we will prove to y'all why we are the best team in the AFC. We will see the Ravens soon. We will see the Bengals soon, and we'll take care of them soon because right now we got the 49ers, and we will take care of them. But then we have the Ravens, and then we have the Bengals. And then what are you going to say? What are you going to say when we beat them? Are you going to say, oh, the Jaguars are fluky. We're not that good. I don't know why they're 14-2. I don't know why they keep winning. I'll tell you why. Because we are good. Because we are Duval. We are Jacksonville's team, not no London team. We are Jaguars. And we will show everyone this Sunday, and we'll prove to the national people that they actually need to watch the Jags game and do some studying on us and have some real reporting because we will be the new face of the AFC.
49ers, what you gonna do? Uh-oh, the Jaguars are coming for you, baby!
Love it. The Jaguars are on fire. And you're right, Joey. The 49ers, the other league is scared. We're going to put the league on notice. And hey, Jags Nation, Jags Worldwide is fired up. Want to give this shout out to Jags Fan Faction. We just connected with him on Twitter, on X. He said this past week, gave my first listen to you fellas on Jag Bros. Job well done. Straight to the points. Maybe not as much in this one, but we're hyped up. Covered a lot of info in a brief amount of time. Good for us modern day Americans who have zero attention span. I'll be following Duval.
Let's go. It is here a lock. All 3 of us have a Jags victory against the 49ers. And we are bringing the hype this game because I know that some Jag fans are waiting for the hat to fall, or people are listening to the national news thinking we're not that good. I've seen people not rank us in the top 5. It's time to be excited about the Jaguars. This is our year. We're putting our money where our mouth is. We went and got a guard to bolster up the offensive line to protect Trevor. We are showing people that we can win. We don't have to use flashy numbers. We don't need to throw like CJ Stroud 4-5 touchdowns, 400 yards to make a squeaky victory against the Buccaneers. You know why? Because we wouldn't have to score that many points to beat the Buccaneers because we're a better team. I understand CJ Stroud is doing a good job, but we still have Trevor Lawrence, the king of the AFC South. He is not being dethroned by CJ Stroud. He just lost to Bryce Young and the unwinnable Panthers. It's just not the same because our team is better. We don't need Trevor Lawrence to do all that. We just need him enough to win these games, which he is doing, and we're going to do it again. So I want all Jaguars hyped for this game. I want the stadium to crumble because we need that new updated stadium. Take it down by the rafters. We are going to win this game, make our presence felt, Duval. People are saying we're a London team. No, we are a Jacksonville team. Prove to them why Jacksonville is the city for this NFL team, because we are a great fan base and we will cheer on our team to victory. And with that, this game is at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Central. Everyone watching, everyone in Jacksonville, be there. And we will win when we bring the energy to the bank, because we're locking down the bank. And with that, we will see you after the game. Duval.